This episode of Sideline Warning is brought to you by Roosport, makers of the original magnetic running pouch. Whether you're biking, running, hiking, or even traveling, the Roosport clips to your waistband with magnets for an easy, convenient way to carry what you need without the bulk of belts or bags. Visit theroosport.com and take a look at their products, sizes, and colors and find the Roosport pouch that's right for you. That's theroosport.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Sideline Warning, the show where sports takes are sure to go way too far into the field. Here to recap this week's biggest and best sports stories are your hosts, Dave Adams, Ben Foster, and Adam Russell.
Hey guys, welcome into Sideline Warning, episode 29. Sorry, it's been about a week and a half since we've talked to you guys with some scheduling conflicts. And you know, it is summer and not much football happens. But wouldn't you know, the week and a half that we take off, we have to actually sift through some news. We have some actual news to talk to y'all guys about this week. Once again, my name is Dave Adams. I'm your host with the most, the golden voice of the Southeast. And joining me, as always, my wonderful co-host from all the way down in Birmingham, Alabama, Ben Foster. What's going on, Ben?
Hey, Dave. How's it going?
Going well. How are you doing? I hadn't talked to you in a long time. I feel like we've been trying to record and we always miss each other.
You know, it is good to finally be recording. While we're recording, I'm watching the Washington Nationals take on the New York Yankees, and I really can't decide which team I hate the most. It's pretty tough.
You know, I hate the Yankees, but I hate the Nationals more. So I might throw in some pinstripes here in a minute. You know, I'd like for the Braves to be up 2 games.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? But
it would. But let's go ahead and bring in our third esteemed co-host, all the way down from the House of Mouse, Lake Buena Vista, Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Celebration.
He's in 5 different Florida cities all at the same time.
Orange County. Which one am I missing, Adam?
Osceola County.
I-4, the Sun Express, whatever they call the stupid toll road. Adam Russell, what's going on, man?
Hey, I agree. Toll roads are stupid down here. How's it going, guys?
Go well. I add a couple of cities every time I introduce you, don't I?
This is a great
my
geography.
intro is the longest part of the show now.
This is a great geography podcast.
I actually need to thumb up on mine. Wait. Okay, so there's Winter Garden, right? There's Dr. Martin or
Dr. Phillips.
Dr. Phillips. There's a couple more. Ocoee. Yeah, I can add a couple. See, there you go. I can add some more. I'll be driving through all those in a short 80-something days. Yeah. Well, not driving through them. I'll be down there.
I was going to say, if you're driving through Claremont, Winter Garden, and Ocoee, just drive straight to Disney World and cut out the middle. Man. Let's get on with it.
I'm flying, so don't worry about that.
Oh, well, there you go. Even better.
So, anyway, a week and a half of not talking to you guys about sports. Well, we've talked, really, but not talking to the public about sports. We were going to record last night, but I'm kind of glad we had some scheduling conflicts because just this afternoon, 2 huge announcements came from the NCAA, 2 big rule changes. We're going to go through them really quick. Probably not really quick. We're going to have a lot of debates about it. The first one will probably be the most heated. I can almost guarantee it because I know Adam has a difference of opinions than I do on this one. But the NCAA has announced that no longer will schools and coaches be able to block a transfer to any other school. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not wild about it. I think you ought to be able to keep your main rivals from being able to recruit your players away from you. And I think that's really, a good way for a team to steal another team's playbook. And so I'm not wild about it, but as long as it's even across the board, I think that's probably good for the players because you have, one player goes to a school and he's restricted from going anywhere in the conference, but a player could go to a different team in the conference and only have 1 or 2 schools that they're restricted from going to. So I think that an even playing field is really good for the players. I just think it's not good for football because there's going to be a lot of playbooks that get exposed this way.
Go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I'm not on my soapbox yet. I'm just jumping in.
Okay.
I think it is good for the players, and I think there will be some impacts overall. But I think that if you're at a point where there's a lot of people who feel pretty passionate, I don't happen to be one of the ones in this particular camp, but there's a lot of people that feel pretty passionate about compensation for players and the fact that there's so much money made off of their efforts and that type of thing. And I don't necessarily go that far, but I think that this is at least allowing them a little bit of flexibility to actually be students, to be people and not property of the university they just happened to sign up for first. Now, I had an interesting conversation with my dad this past weekend just about some of the Alabama's recent ones, and
here we go.
Should you be able to transfer when they've graduated and that type of thing? And we had a difference of opinion, and we all probably would here too with me, I think. But I think overall it's a good thing because ultimately at the end of the day, these are student athletes. And football is a big money-making venture. It generates a lot of television, a lot of ad revenue, a lot of money for the schools. And there will be some problems with people seeing playbooks and knowing what other teams are doing and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, these are kids. And I think that this, if you're not going to pay them and we're not going to go down that path, I think this at least gives them a little bit of flexibility to be individuals and not property. But
Adam, let me ask you a question. You've got a son who is what, 8 now?
He's 8. Yeah.
8. Okay.
He's not looking to transfer, is he?
No.
Okay,
Let
good.
Actually, the next door neighbors have been like,
But let me ask you this. What are you ever teaching him a lesson of when you make a promise to somebody, you stick with it?
Now you're going to get me on my soapbox. So yes, I am saying that you should be a man of your word, but I would argue the fact that in some of these cases, and I'm trying to be delicate, in a lot of these cases of these players, they probably don't have that same influence, number one, in their lives up to the point where they go to college. And number two, I would also, and this is one of the arguments I was making with my dad, is that if some of these athletes don't play football, they don't go to school. And if somebody wants to stay all the way through graduate school, as a society, for the good of everybody, we ought to want these kids to stay in school as long as possible. And if that means transferring to go get your degree so that you can go be a productive citizen in the back end of all this when football is gone, a lot of these kids, if they stop playing or they transfer out and they say, no, we're blocking it, and they're just like, well, I quit, they're not going to stay in school.
Coaches,
they're going to go home.
Coaches can leave whenever they want to. So why can't a player leave whenever they want to?
That I couldn't
Okay,
agree.
so are we opening up Pandora's box and just having free agency now in football? In college football? Because why don't we go ahead and call this the NFL? I don't like this rule. I think that if they're going to transfer, make the rule where you can't transfer in the conference. I'll give you 100 other schools you can transfer to, but not in your conference. These are the guys that you see every year that you have to hide secrets from.
Yeah.
So if the backup center from Alabama, who knows all the plays on the offensive line, wants to go somewhere, don't go into your conference.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. The one place where I might make an exception is in like a family medical situation. Like, let's say a player, is from Tennessee and he commits to Alabama, or he commits to Auburn, or he commits to Georgia, and then he finds out that like a relative has some serious ailment, cancer or something very serious like that, and they want to move to be closer to home to be with their family, and they're an SEC caliber team, the SEC caliber player, they ought to be able to move closer to home in that medical situation. But otherwise, they ought to be restricted from being able to transfer within their conference. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree broader than that, though, because if the backup center going from Alabama to Tennessee puts our ability to win a national championship at risk, that's the cost of doing business.
But it's not
a high-stakes business for a reason.
It's not putting the championship stakes at risk.
Okay.
What if Pierce Baker goes down? Alabama has no one else at backup center right now.
Okay.
So
yeah, but then
we should be doing everything we can to keep those people in and understanding who they are as people and what their motivations would be to transfer in the first place.
You can
and that's
you
what
can
Saban's
convert
doing.
a guard. You can convert a guard to a center. You could also, if your backup center can freely leave, you ought to be able to go get a backup center to freely come to you, especially if you're Alabama. this hurts. Even though we're talking about Alabama's playbook getting stolen, this hurts Alabama the least because Alabama is the best program in the country. If somebody cuts and runs from Alabama for whatever reason, they are going to be able to restock their team better than anybody else. Who this really hurts is a school like Vanderbilt. If they've got a good center and he's able to transfer somewhere else, or a good wide receiver and he transfers somewhere else, it's going to be a lot harder for Vandy to restock. It's going to be a lot harder for a strong academic school. Not saying Alabama's not good academically, but they're not Vandy. It's going to be a lot harder for a team of lesser football caliber and stronger academics to be able to stock up their own players. And that's going to put a lot of teams at a disadvantage. It's not going to put Alabama at a long-term disadvantage because they're always going to be able to reload much better than these other teams.
I mean, it seems a little duplicitous to me to have all these coaches go out on the recruiting trail and sit in the living room of these mothers, right? Think about your mama, right? And he tells them, all the coaches tell him, I will have your child's best interest at heart as long as they go to my school. We will develop them in the best way possible so that they have the best shot to play in the NFL. And if it turns out that that's not the best place, I'm going to block the transfer so that your child doesn't have the best opportunity. That's the dark side of it that they don't say. But is that we're not going to let them transfer if that ends up being the best thing. I'm actually going to block it and break all the promises I just made to you sitting in your living room.
Well, let's be fair. So everybody is vilifying Nick Saban for this Brandon Kennedy situation, saying you can't go to Auburn or Tennessee. That's not Nick Saban alone. Up until 2 weeks ago, that was an SEC rule.
Yeah.
The only person that was actually saying, let's make this rule stick, was Nick Saban. All the other 13 coaches were kind of turning a blind eye. Nick Saban was truly going by the rule book. So let's not vilify Nick Saban in that situation that you're talking about, though. And I feel like Nick Saban has gotten a horrible rap for this Brandon Kennedy situation.
Yeah. Well,
I just think I think it's legit to be able to block somebody from going to your rivals. But, you know, it ought to be that you just have like 2 or 3 options, and that's it. Like, you shouldn't be able to cap everything. Like, nowhere within 1,000 miles of here can you go. But you ought to be able to keep your in-state rival from getting a player, and you ought to be able to keep your next state over rival from getting a player.
Well, there's a slippery slope with that, though, Ben. And I agree with you to a certain point. You should be able to block maybe 2 schools. But when you say rival, everybody in the SEC considers Alabama a rival. So if you say that, then Alabama says, you can't go to any of my rivals. Okay, that's not LSU. That's not Mississippi State. That's not Auburn. That's not Tennessee.
But look. Everybody has like 2 pretty good rivals, and I get it that like everybody wants to call Alabama a rival, but legitimately, not all rivals are created equal. Alabama clearly has 2 rivalries that are more significant than others, and that is because Auburn is the in-state rival, and then Tennessee is the Eastern Division rival that Alabama plays every year. That's 2 teams that you play every year that you ought to be able to block. That doesn't mean any team in the conference is automatically your rival, and maybe you should be able to designate who your 2 rivals are. If Tennessee is so weak you don't care that a guy's going to Tennessee, maybe you designate Georgia as your rival or something like that. But give every team 2 schools to designate as their rivals and make it and that actually will enhance the rivalry because none of your players can go there. They're going to really hate those schools because they're never going to go there, and they're across from you. So you just draw a line in the sand and say, you shall not go to Auburn, you shall not go to Tennessee. They are our sworn enemies, and that reinforces the rivalry even more. I think that's great.
Yeah,
and
that's why everybody should really hurt UCF because
does that
who
really
would
hurt
you block
athlete?
if you're UCF? Austin Peay.
Oh, there it is.
So let me ask you guys this then. Let's say that you have, and there's a domino effect that you're probably going to see with some of this, right? That let's say Tennessee loses a guy for his career due to a really bad injury, right? And there's a player at Alabama that's a perfect plug-in to fill that spot, who is one of our second or third string. And that means instant playing time, instant time to be out on a field in the SEC to prove his ability to the scouts, to prove his ability to everybody in the media, right? Should he, if the best thing for him is to go and have that starting 12 games next year, because he still has to sit out the rest of this year, but if he does go and he plays next year and he has that ability to prove himself, that's the best thing for him. And yeah, it's our rival, but we're allowing someone to live up to their potential. So is the potential loss on the side of we let someone go to a rival worth it in the sense that a player was allowed to now improve their draft stock? Even if they didn't get drafted from Alabama, they still had the ability to make it more than they would have if they were sitting third string on the bench.
Well, let's look at Alvin Kamara with that situation.
Yeah.
I mean, Alvin Kamara played at Alabama, didn't get much playing time. Then he decided to go to Tennessee and he became a beast, and now he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. I mean, Alabama didn't care that he went to Tennessee then because Tennessee sucked. And the problem Alabama's having
did he go directly to Tennessee, though?
Yes, he did.
I thought he stopped off somewhere.
I think he went directly to Tennessee. But the problem that Alabama's having now is not only is Brandon Kennedy wanting to go to Tennessee, also our defensive coordinator is the head coach at Tennessee.
Yeah.
So all of Alabama's offensive and defensive side playbooks will be wide open. So
yeah, it's to me the bigger issue is not so much with Brandon Kennedy as it is with Jeremy Pruitt. You ought to kind of have enough respect that you don't cross over and say and go try to pull players from your old coach. It's one thing if it's a high school recruit. It's a very different thing if it's a player that you actually like had a relationship with when they were at that other school.
Right. I'm going to put a nice bow on this conversation with this one little part of this article from Saturday Down South. I'm glad you brought that up, Ben. It says
real quick. One thing. Alvin Kamara did go to a community college in between Alabama and Tennessee.
Okay.
Which makes it a little easier. I thought
That's
he
more
had
legit.
stopped off. Okay. Anyway,
okay.
Sorry.
But Saturday Down South said, in an attempt to prevent schools from tampering with student athletes already enrolled at another institution, a la Jeremy Pruitt coming down to Alabama, the NCAA has made tampering a level 2 violation, where it was like a level 3 violation before. This is only one step removed from the most serious infraction, a level 1 violation. So the NCAA is going to try to make it where tampering is not allowed.
But how do you prove tampering? You can look at something and say that that looks like tampering, but tampering's a hard thing to prove. You got to have text messages or emails. I mean, and how do you get those?
Those are easily traceable.
Yeah. How do you get those things? The NCAA doesn't have subpoena power. That's why the FBI has gotten involved in basketball games. They don't have the ability to go get this information they'd like to have.
Yeah. So before we get into FBI conversations, let's go ahead and get to the secondary rule that the NCAA has announced, and I believe this one is going to be the most life-changing, we should say. The NCAA has also announced that a freshman or anybody that has not redshirted can play in up to 4 games and still maintain their redshirt status coming up for the next season. I, for one, love this rule. Because think about back to 2009 when Greg McElroy was Alabama's starting quarterback. We didn't really have a backup quarterback. And at the time, Nick Saban came out and said, A.J. McCarron, our redshirt freshman, is our backup quarterback. Everybody was up in arms saying, oh my gosh, if we have to play him, we're going to take the red shirt off of him, and we won't have him as long as we thought. Well, with this rule in place, we wouldn't have had to worry about that. With this rule in place, I believe Tua only played in 4 games last year. Am I wrong? So Tua could still technically be a redshirt freshman if this rule was in place last year.
So even if they take 1 snap, it counts as playing in 1 game. One of the 4 is burned.
Right.
Got it.
If they touch the playing field and the ball is snapped, then that is a down in one of the 4 games. Now the caveat to this rule, the only thing that changes is for teams that play in the playoffs. Students that come on campus early, you cannot play them. Just like the rule is the same. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I, for one, love this because you will get players playing in the bowl game. Let's say Alabama doesn't make it to the playoffs this year. Heaven forbid. But let's say Alabama doesn't make it to the playoffs this year. You'll see freshmen playing in the bowl game and still be able to redshirt just to get them collegiate experience if the senior is leaving and we know they're going to start next year.
I think it's really good for the players from an injury standpoint, because there's a lot of guys that play injured. They're not in a severe injury, but they go take the field before they're 100%. And if you have the option of playing some of these freshmen without there being repercussions, without that being that that detrimental to their playing time, you're able to play guys that are healthy and not have to risk guys so much that have been dealing with injuries. So I think this is really good from an injury standpoint because it really helps players. Tua, by the way, saw action in 8 different games. So
did he? Okay.
Yeah. Fresno State, Colorado State, Vandy. I think we remember that. Ole Miss, right. Arkansas, Tennessee, Mercer, and Georgia. Now, strategically speaking, he didn't have to get into all these games. Alabama had a third-string quarterback, so if they wanted to use him and get him experience, but also preserve years of eligibility, they could have just played him in 4 games, or 3, and had him in the back pocket for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you'll see the same kind of thing. I really like it. And I think it gives you the opportunity to put someone in a game against a Fresno State, a Colorado State, a Mercer, some of those games where if they end up not being ready, it's not going to be the end of the world, right? But it gives you a chance to kind of get them tested out. And I agree with what the article said, too, that if you haven't used somebody, a bowl game's a great opportunity to get somebody some pretty moderate pressure if you're in a bowl, higher pressure stakes if you're something else. Get them a few snaps, without having to lose that status. So I like it from the standpoint that it gets you an idea of who someone is, and still redshirt them at the same time.
Well, it also allows a coach to talk to a player and in this situation, if Tua is going to be our example, let's think about that. Tua's spending most of the season going, I'm not getting enough playing time. I want to transfer. I'm thinking about going somewhere else. If coach is telling him during the season, hey, we're not playing you, and we're not playing you for a reason. We're keeping your eligibility alive, and we're saving you for the national championship game, how does that make a player feel? That should make him feel pretty good, doesn't it? And that cuts into some of those thoughts where a guy's thinking early about transferring. And even, guys like Derrick Henry had freshman years where they thought about leaving Alabama and transferring. So if a coach is able to use that incentive, we're saving you for the bowl game. We're saving you for Auburn. We're saving you for the Iron Bowl because we may really need you there. That shows a guy he's important, but it also keeps him off the field and lets a coach put emphasis on the players he wants to put emphasis on. I think it's useful.
Yeah. Just for clarification, not clarification, just for point of reference, Adam mentioned that we are reading from an article here. Once again, this is another Saturday Down South article written by Michael Wayne Bratton. Unfortunately, he is a Tennessee grad, so we are quoting a Tennessee grad when we talk about this article tonight.
We're actually plussing up the language a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. We're making it sound intelligent. So, yeah. I'll tell you, like I said before, I am very for this rule. I think that this will only help the competition. Today, the NCAA is 1 for 2 in my book. I didn't like the transfer rule, but I love this rule. So I know, Adam, you're probably 2 for 2 because you were all for that stupid transfer rule.
Yeah, their job is to make sure that the student athlete can get everything that they need out of their collegiate career, not to make sure that the playbook doesn't get leaked. So I think they're doing their job.
Let's just have free agency. Let's just make it a free agents.
Dogs and cats living together, right, Dave? If you're going to go halfway, you might as well go all the way.
Our pets' heads are falling off. The world is ending. I'll tell you what, the world is not truly ending because we're going to take a break. You're going to hear about our sponsors, The Roo Sport. They love us. We love them. And we're going to let you listen to their ad about their products. And tell you what, have a nice coconut smile. And we'll see you on the other side here on Sideline.
Hey, everybody. While we've got a quick second, I want to tell you again about our sponsor, Roo Sport, at theroosport.com, and the running pouches they make that clip to your waistband with magnets. I know we've talked in the past about our experience with the Dark Side Half Marathon I'm actually training for my second half marathon with my new Roo Sport that I recently got, and I got to say, still love it. I'm able to really leave the house with just a pair of shoes, a Roo Sport, whatever I need to fit inside it, my house key, my phone, and just go. I don't have to worry about taking a belt. I don't have to worry about anything being uncomfortable when I run. It holds what I need. It gets the job done. And it does it in a really comfortable way, which is not something you can say about a lot of running gear out there. And Dave, I know you recently got one. I don't know if you have any experiences you want to share.
Actually, I have been training with it since I got it a couple of weeks ago. Just last weekend, I went on a good long run. I went in it, threw some gels in it, threw my phone in it. Didn't even feel the pouch. The only reason I knew it was there is because I felt my phone on my hip. Didn't move. The magnets made it stay right there on my belt loop. And honestly, it's the best thing I've ever had because, like I said a couple weeks ago, when I first started running, Adam, you told me to go get one of those belts that have the water bottles and the little fanny pack looking thing up front. And it just rode up and down when I started running. I didn't like it. It didn't feel comfortable. But this Roo Sport pouch, it really is. It's the best thing you could take when you're running.
Yeah, and we're about to actually go out to some theme parks coming up in the next week or two, and so I'm going to take it out for a spin in a theme park, something completely different than running. So we'll let you guys know how that goes after we have that experience. So visit theroosport.com and take a look at their products. They've got multiple colors, multiple sizes to fit all kinds of phones, and find the one that's right for you, and that's theroosport.com. Go visit their website, take a look at their product.
Welcome back into Sideline Warning. Hope you guys had that nice Coke and a smile. Hope you're as well rested as we are. Hope you got some laughs because my cheeks hurt so much from us laughing in that break. We'll tell you about it later. You might be a little too young to hear about it right now.
We'll never tell.
No, we'll never tell.
We'll never tell.
Unless Ben makes that the outro. If you're not listening to the end of the show, wait till the music ends because there's usually a funny outtake that Ben finds from our recording that usually doesn't make it in the final episode because it's not
most folks would leave it on the cutting room floor, but I get it out there to the masses because we're transparent. We're a transparent podcast, and we have nothing to hide, or something like that.
Yeah, we do. we got a lot.
Yeah, we've got a lot to hide. But some things we don't hide, and those I put at the end of the podcast after the music's over. So stay with us till the end, folks.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so we got one other bit of NCAA-esque conversations we can talk about. In the week and a half, 2 weeks that we were not with you guys, the Major League Baseball draft happened, and the number 9 pick was also the starting quarterback for the Oklahoma Sooners, one Kyler Murray. I believe he's going to be a sophomore. Am I right, or was he a sophomore? I'm looking at you, Ben.
Islands.
I thought you guys had his stats up.
Well, I've got his baseball stats. I don't have his football stats. He backed up
football player.
He backed up Baker Mayfield. So he didn't play much last year at all, I don't think. But anyway,
he's a redshirt junior.
Okay, redshirt junior. Yeah. So he's got 2 years of eligibility left. So he had a choice to make. He can either sign a $4.7 million contract with the Oakland Athletics, or he can go back and play college football.
Or
he can do
number 3.
He can do both, apparently. So the NCAA allowed him to sign a $4.7 million contract, and he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Oklahoma Sooners. Well, this brings up 2 questions. One, this is going to be an easy softball. Is he worth the number 9 pick at Oakland? Because last year, with an aluminum bat, Murray batted clean up for the Oklahoma Sooners baseball team, played center field, but he batted .296 with only 10 home runs, 47 RBIs, and only 10 stolen bases. Is that worth a number 9 pick to you guys?
You're not digging deep enough, Dave. You got to get down into sabermetrics.
I hate sabermetrics.
You got to get way down into like the gritty details of his stats. Come on, it's the A's we're talking about.
That's not. Ben, you had a snarky comment, I'm sure.
Well, it just seems weird to me that you draft a guy that there would be doubt about, a guy that's playing, he's quarterbacking in a major football program. It seems like a very risky thing to do your first round draft pick on this guy because there's a lot of intangibles. And I guess you could have a conversation with him. You could say, all right, what if we did draft you early? You know, what happens? But there, you know, this guy could go out and have, you know, summer football practice and break a leg. And then he's not going to be the baseball player you think he is. So obviously not hoping anything like that happens to him, but there's just a lot of question marks. I don't know why you go with this guy as the number 9 pick overall. And I mean, I haven't seen him play baseball, but I don't remember Oklahoma's baseball program being that outstanding that a guy that's batting cleanup for them is going to be one of the top 10 baseball players in America. But also, there's a lot of things about the MLB draft I don't understand. Mainly because it doesn't get that big of a stage. It's hard to figure out what's going on. You have these high school guys mixing with the college guys, and it's really hard to evaluate talent because you just haven't been exposed to see that many of them. We know who the good college football players are that are going to be drafted because you see enough college football. Even if you're a huge college baseball fan, you probably haven't seen anything out of the conference that you root for. And so I don't know how anybody is going to have a really good, except for a strong baseball expert. I don't know how, you know, a scout that's been around for 20 years. I don't know how you're going to have that good of a feel for Kyler Murray. And so maybe he's the 9th best because somebody that's smart figured this out. But I don't see enough to think that he could possibly be a first round draft pick.
Yeah, I don't either. In fact, I think he had a 3rd to 4th round draft grade. I don't know what the A's are thinking here.
Moneyball. They're thinking Moneyball.
There you go.
But this brings up another question. So he chose door number 3. This is straight from an article from mlive.com. It's apparently the Michigan website. Michigan Wolverines website was talking about this. I have no idea why, but this is the first thing that popped up in Google when I looked up the situation here. But it says he could sign a contract with the A's and jump right into minor league baseball, or he can also sign the multi-million-dollar deal, $4.7 million, keep his college football scholarship, provided he meets the academic requirements. While that's great for Kyler Murray, congratulations, Kyler Murray. You are now making more than Lincoln Riley, your head coach.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. How is this permissible by the NCAA or permitted by the NCAA? Because
I think it kind of makes sense. I mean, I make $4 million a year and I still do this podcast with you guys.
If you make $4 million a year, please send me some of it. Because I know that's a lie.
We're not quite there yet.
Well, I mean, the part that's interesting to me in one of these articles is it says that he could begin professional baseball in an abbreviated fashion this summer and then join the Sooners when practice begins in August. So if he's started any of his baseball activities, I'm assuming at some point he's receiving compensation for that. It may not be part of the main thrust of his millions of dollars, but I'm assuming he's going to get something. But I think the differentiation here is that he's not making any profit off of what he's competing in the NCAA, right?
Okay, great.
Because I mean, you had some other examples, right, Dave? Of like,
yeah, I did. But before we get into that, let's even look more finite into this. The NCAA doesn't even allow student athletes to have a job doing stuff like working at McAllister's or working at Guthrie's down on 15th Street. Yeah. So you can have $4.7 million, but you can't have a job?
Given our previous conversation, you can probably guess that I would agree with that.
I know.
So
here are the other examples. So Jeremy Bloom was probably the most recognizable one. I believe he was a return man for Colorado a couple years ago, but he was also an Olympic skier. Well, to make money pay his way to get to the Olympics, Jeremy Bloom posed in a calendar with the ski team. Well, the NCAA said, "I'm sorry, that will make you ineligible to be the return man for the University of Colorado. Sorry, you have to put your ski dreams on hold, or you can't play football." Okay? Non-football activities. Can't pose in a calendar to help get you the Olympics. There was also a kicker at Adam's favorite university, University of Central Florida. What is the guy's name? You had it up.
I lost it.
Okay.
De La Haye, wasn't it?
Yes, De La Haye. He was a kicker.
Donald De La Haye.
Donald De La Haye. Kicker who had a YouTube channel that was monetized, that was comedy, that was doing a lot of other fun stuff, but he did teach kids how to kick. The NCAA says, "I'm sorry, you can't have a monetized YouTube channel and still be an NCAA athlete. But we're going to allow a kid to make sign a $4.7 million contract and still be the starting quarterback for the Oklahoma Sooners."
Yeah, De La Haye I kind of agree with, just because it's monetized based off of videos he's doing as he's competing in football. I mean, that seems linked a lot more than playing baseball or doing anything with the Olympics, a calendar or whatever it is like that. And it's not because he went to UCF that I say that I agree with that one, but I do for the most part agree with that one. But I think at the very least, you have to be consistent. Unfortunately, as we've seen, that's typically not one of the NCAA's strong suits. But I mean, for me, this kid has the opportunity to do both of these. I think he ought to be allowed to do it. But to your point, Dave, you can't work at McAllister's making $10 an hour, but you can make millions of dollars. It's not consistent. I agree.
Yeah, and I think that the NCAA, this is going to bleed into my sideline warning, so I'm going to kind of stop for a second. But the NCAA needs to stop talking out of two sides of their mouths here, both sides of their mouths. Are you going to be all for the students and allow you to transfer, or are you going to be this dictator that says you can't have a minimum wage job?
He's just transferring to the A's after the season's over. That's what it is.
With a $4.7 million contract.
Well, if somebody transfers to Tennessee, they're getting paid too anyway, right? Same thing.
Same thing. So,
I think I figured out how this would work. What would happen is Kyler Murray would go and just like anybody else that's initially drafted, in the summertime he would play like single A baseball. And then probably next season they could move him up to like the AA, AAA kind of level if he's playing pretty well. And then at that point there would be an opportunity for him to play against Tim Tebow. And we all know Tim Tebow is not a professional baseball player. And if he's playing against him, Kyler Murray can't be a professional baseball player either. And that is how he's able to maintain his eligibility.
Wow.
Solved it. Problem solved. There you go.
Love it.
Dadgummit. Now you made me change my sideline warning. I have another thing that popped in my head. So
what I can't believe.
I'm also amazed.
I can't believe is that. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Well, Adam, you're wearing a Las Vegas 51s hat right now, and that's actually the Mets AAA affiliate. So that's what's going to happen. They're Pacific Coast League. That's where you're going to have Tim Tebow playing when he faces off against Kyler Murray. There you go.
Well, the game I went to, they need him. Trust me, they look really bad. Not that I want the Mets in any way to do good, but they lost like 16-4. It was ugly. Yes. What I can't believe is the Oklahoma websites are out there talking about Kyler Murray, not with just the story of the A's, but saying that Oklahoma may still look at a dual quarterback situation, not only because the race is so tight between the two, but also that there's concern that Kyler Murray, if it comes down to taking one for the team or keeping himself healthy, he's not going to put his all out on the field. And so I even question, is he the number 9 pick, whatever, he's got this contract. I even question, why is he coming back? If there's these kind of things that are going on in Norman, these kind of conversations they're having where maybe they're not going to use him as much as they think. I mean, I question why risk it, but it's his choice to make.
Yeah, I agree, Adam. Why even bother? Because if Kyler Murray is not going to give you 100%, then if I'm Logan Riley or whatever University of Oklahoma's head coach is.
Lincoln
I think it's
Riley?
Lincoln Riley. If I'm Lincoln Riley, I say stay away. If you're not going to give me 100%, I don't want you on my team. If you're only going to give me 80%, you're just going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt the team. Go play baseball. I mean, I don't see any reason why you would want to play football and baseball if you're not going to give your all on both of them. And there again, what are we teaching our kids these days? I hate to sound like the old get off my lawn guy, but what are we teaching our kids these days if we're going to say you can for the first time ever, I'm going to cuss on this show. You can half-ass one thing, but you can try to excel in the other thing and still make money. If you're only going to play football just to be playing football, don't even show up on campus.
Well, Dave, you're an old man now.
Well, I hope we're teaching our kids that sports are fun and that you should always make wise financial decisions for your family. $4 million is a life-changing sum of money, and I am all for the academics. I'll even get into this a little bit in my sideline warning, but my goodness, if you have a chance to make $4 million, go make $4 million. And if you can work something out where you can play football too and still get your $4 million from baseball, more power to you, dude. I don't know how you work it out, but I think some more people ought to take notice. Good for you, Kyler Murray, if you can make it work. I totally get some coaches aren't going to be happy with that, but if you can make it work, I'm all for it. But this is why Saban doesn't recruit two-sport athletes. He doesn't have this problem. How many of Saban's quarterbacks have been drafted in Major League Baseball?
None,
because he doesn't pick two-sport athletes.
Well, Keith Holcomb, linebacker, also plays baseball.
He is one of the rare exceptions because Saban has famously said he wouldn't do two-sport athletes. But quite honestly, I don't know the way Holcomb played this year. I don't know if it's worth it for him to go back to football, and he's not getting $4 million. He had a good season playing baseball.
Yeah, he did.
He may want to double down.
I'd say double down because there's no place for you at linebacker, sir. But anyway, there is our talk about the NCAA. We bashed it. We loved it. Most of the time we bashed it. There are no picks this week. But before we get into the sideline warnings, I'm just going to go ahead and get the social media stuff out there. If you have a topic you want us to talk about, Adam, what's the phone number?
931-44-BLITZ.
That is 931-44-BLITZ. To call our Blitz line, call it. We will put your call on air unless you're promoting the I Am Geek t-shirts. And then we will talk about the topic that you want us to talk about unless it is I Am Geek. We love you, Ryan. Go listen to I Am Geek once you listen to our show. Also, follow us on Twitter, SW The Show. Find us on Facebook. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/SW Show. You can ask to join the Sideline Warning fan group. It is Sideline Warning fan group at facebook.com. Somewhere you can search it. Follow me on Twitter at DAdams419. Follow Ben on Twitter at TheBenFoster. Follow Adam on Twitter if he ever tweets at RunTideRun. Adam, are you going to start tweeting?
No, now that the CEO apologizes for eating at Chick-fil-A, I refuse to tweet.
Here we go.
Okay. And I'm going to go throw in another plug. Adam and I are going to start up another podcast called Geeky Pops. If you like all fun things geek, probably in the next 3-4 weeks. When you say, Adam, we'll have it up there.
I think that's what we said 3 or 4 weeks ago, but yes, that sounds good.
Also, there's a new edition of the Magic City Music Cast, with my music podcast related to shows in Birmingham. I've got a good interview with a group called Marigold out of Birmingham, so should be a pretty good podcast. Be on the lookout for that. Check out the Magic City Music Cast.
For the first time in 2 months, Ben, there you go.
Hey, it's not a weekly podcast.
Do us a favor also. Go on iTunes and subscribe to the show. Give us a good review. We've only got eight likes so far, but they've all been 5 stars. We appreciate all that. But go in and if you haven't given your feedback, if it's a 5-star, please give it. If you have some non-constructive feedback, shoot it to one of our Twitters or shoot us a DM on Facebook group. Just let us know, but don't let us know that way. Anyway, go in and like Ben's podcast, and when it is live, go in and like the Geeky Pops. We're going to be doing it with our buddy Chris Papchek. Wow, easy for me to say. But anyway, there's our talk. We didn't have any picks. There's our social media shout-outs. And now it is time for the sideline warning. Ben, I think yours is going to be in memorandum, right? Or in memory of?
Well, let's not give everything away.
Okay. Well, the reason I say that is I'm going to let you go last because yours is a very, very good sideline warning. Adam, go ahead and hit us with your sideline warning.
All right. Thank you, sir. So they mentioned the 51s hat that I'm wearing right now. So while I was in Las Vegas last week as part of my business trip, we went to a 51s game, and always fun to go to a baseball game. Wasn't very good baseball from the 51s that we saw, at least. But one of the things we noticed was that the nets behind home plate were really short. And the row we were sitting on, our seats were just past the edge of them. And luckily, with a minor league baseball game in the middle of the week in Las Vegas, there's plenty of seats to pick from. We decided to sit there, though, and we kind of cracked a joke that we're going to get our teeth knocked out sitting here because you're close to home plate. There's no net there, that type of thing. And so top of the fifth comes around, and the pitcher that was in for the 51s hits a line drive about 4 feet away from us that smacks a lady dead in the forehead in the stands and knocks her out, bleeding everywhere. They had to come down. EMT showed up. And they had to bear hug her up the stairs and rush her off to the hospital. And seeing that in person, I know we've all heard a lot of stories about that kind of stuff, but seeing it in person and being so close to it really opened my eyes to the fact that we have to do something overall about every stadium in America. And I'm not for government overreach or anything like that, but I'm at the point where it's almost like a federal law needs to be passed for safety, like they do with cars and other things, that something has to be done. I know a lot of the bigger stadiums, a lot of major league locations, and even a couple of minor leagues I've seen have extended theirs down past the dugout. And I think that ought to be a minimum requirement to host a baseball game, is that you at least have that up. Definitely scary situation for that family and for all of us around, who actually saw it happen. So for me, I think it's just time to get serious about the safety. Baseball is a very social thing to go to. You're eating, you're talking, you're spending time with your family. There was a family with a group of kids in the next seats right next to this lady, so it could have been a child. And so I think we can't all have our heads on a swivel every play like the players do. So I think it's time for baseball to step up in every ballpark across America, no matter how big or small, and do something for the fan safety and make it mandatory.
I totally agree with you, Adam. In fact, my sideline warning, mine's a two-parter. First off, the first part kind of agrees with you. In fact, the North Alabama area is getting a minor league baseball team back. The team in Madison, the team from Mobile, is moving up to Madison, Alabama here. And let me just say, welcome back baseball in North Alabama. I'm proud to see it back. I'm proud to be able to say I will take my daughters both to games. They will grow up going to minor league games just like I did. It's a fun atmosphere to take your kids to. Hopefully, Madison will do the right thing and put nets up to where I can comfortably take my girls and not have to worry about balls coming into the stands at a high rate of speed like they happened there in Las Vegas. But my second one is to one Mr. Timothy Tebow. One second. Adam, why are you laughing at me?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Adam,
go ahead.
Adam,
no,
you
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
One Mr. Timothy Tebow. So news came out a couple weeks ago that the new football league, the Alliance of American Football, is getting an Orlando team, and it will be coached by Steve Spurrier. Steve Spurrier said that he wanted to reach out to Tim Tebow to play football at quarterback. But Tim Tebow said, you know what? I'm a baseball player now. Tim, kid, you're 31 years old.
He wants to play against Kyler Murray.
You will never make it into the major leagues. And if the Mets do bring you up, it's because you're going to be a sideshow. Honestly, I'm going to say Michael Jordan was a better baseball player than you, Tim. If you played right and Spurrier dealt you a good hand, play a year in the AAF, and maybe the NFL would come call and say, hey, we need a backup. Tom Brady's retiring, or hey, we need a backup. Come play. But no, you said you want to play baseball. Tim, I'm sorry. You're not a baseball player. You're Jose Batista was a better third baseman than you are a baseball player. So if I was Tim, I would be calling Steve Spurrier and saying, hey, is that offer still good? I think I'm going to come play football. There you go, Tim. Go play.
So are you calling him a failure at baseball?
No, I am not.
Okay.
I will not put that on him because he's in the Mets system. It's funny. I just realized it. The 51s are the Mets AAA team.
Yep, they are.
So our sideline warnings were linked in both ways. Mine. Yeah. All right. So there's my sideline warning. Ben, hit us with yours.
All right. Well, I am always trying to find a way to incorporate Alabama basketball, college basketball into the podcast. But this week, I'm incorporating it in a much more unfortunate way. First off, on a little bit of a positive note, NBA.com is doing positive features on guys that are about to get drafted. And there's a positive note where Colin Sexton is featured, and it even mentions that he signed up for a new thing Alabama's doing called the Maymester, where you actually take one course in the month of May. So after your classes wrap up at the beginning of the month for the spring semester, you take additional classes in May. And he's doing that because he wants to keep pursuing academics, even while he's going around the country doing warm-ups for these NBA teams and workout sessions. That way they can get a better feel for how he plays. So I want to praise the student-athlete, and I think it's an amazing thing what Colin Sexton's doing, still pursuing academics, even though he's clearly about to make millions of dollars like Kyler Murray by being a professional athlete. But we also have to recognize that for when we celebrate somebody great like Colin Sexton, who's going to be drafted next week in the NBA draft, we have to realize that when some of these guys stand tall, it's because they've stood on the shoulders of giants. And there is no giant more of greater height and magnitude in Alabama basketball than one C.M. Newton, who passed away last week. The team, he integrated the team, he elevated the play of the team, and he also made major contributions to Vanderbilt basketball program, Kentucky's basketball program, and to the Southeastern Conference as a whole. So when we enjoy college basketball in the Southeast, a main reason we're doing that is because of what C.M. Newton's done. I was actually fortunate that I took a management class, a public administration class in college at Alabama, and C.M. Newton got to come in one day as a guest speaker, and the things he's seen, the leadership insights he was able to impart, it's just truly amazing. And so Alabama basketball has already started. They've set up a scholarship fund. They've started several different things to memorialize C.M. Newton. And quite honestly, in the coming year, they can't do enough to adequately emphasize how important this man was to Alabama's basketball program. So here's to you, C.M. Newton. Coach Newton, you will be sorely missed. But he was at games, throughout this season, and just a truly amazing thing. He kept going to games, always tried to be in good health, and kept supporting the program even after he'd moved on. And so just a giant in college basketball across the board, but especially a giant for Alabama basketball. Here's to you, C.M. Newton.
Well said, Ben. And I'll say I don't think that Alabama fans give him enough credit for what he's done for Alabama basketball. C.M. Newton is more, I guess, around the country, more synonymous with Kentucky basketball. But really, he put Alabama basketball on the map. And I don't know if there'll ever be another giant like C.M. Newton in Alabama basketball.
The SEC network has a great documentary. It is just an outstanding documentary on C.M. Newton. And so if you ever get the chance to see that, DVR it, record it, sit down and take the time to watch it, because it's really one of the better sports documentaries I've seen. And SEC network really outdid themselves. But it gives you you think you know everything about C.M. Newton. You think you've got a good comprehension of his life and his career, and that documentary really puts everything in perspective. So a great thing to go watch if you have the chance to see that.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hate to end the show on that note, but that's it. That's sideline warning for the week. Like I said, like us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, join the Facebook fan group, like, share, and subscribe on iTunes, Google, iHeartRadio, what am I missing? Spotify. Give us feedback. Let us know how good we are. And call the Blitz line. But guys, we love you. We'll see you guys next week on Sideline Warning. Roll Tide. Okay, well, let's start the show. All right, you ready?
This is Sideline Warning with your co-host, Dave Adams.
Episode starting.
Dan Foster and Adam Russell.
Yay! Yay! Is this episode 29?
This is episode 29.
Okay. All right, we're doing this in 3, 2,
forever.
1.